You having fun yet?
Oh, yeah, I'm having a blast. Thanks.
Good.
God, sucker teed off in that like he knew I was going to throw a fastball.
He did know.
How?
I told him.
Yes. And the next time you screech, it'll explode into millions of eardrums.
Just so you understand, right now, out there on your own, your life expectancy is like here. With me, it's here. Without me, here. With me, without me. With me, without me.
Just however many times it takes, pump it, and you're in the water and off you go.
Oh my goodness.
Like a punch to the gut, the Cinemaniacs have returned.
Yes, punching their guts.
Punching
what
your gut.
Ultimately, it will feel like. I got the illusion of the reference. Or whatever.
Like Doug Henning. In keeping with tradition, we're actually in a new space.
We are.
You might be able to tell things look a little different, may sound a little different. We're in our new temporary studio, which might even allow for a studio audience.
I can stretch. You can stretch.
We can stretch, and we touched each other.
Yes.
We usually do that off camera. I'm Mark.
And I'm Tom.
And we are the
Cinemaniacs.
Keeping it classy as always. So, should we jump right into
We've
the
got
40
like a
films?
dozen. It's been a couple weeks, hasn't it?
It has been a couple
My
of
fault
weeks.
for last week because I was on vacation before the noose completely tightens in the fall. It tightens for me. Actually, the noose is nice and taut, but the platform drops tomorrow. So, because I have my first class. So
it's a man who loves his job.
Yes, isn't it though?
So, if would you like to start or shall I?
It's up to you.
Well, if I may.
You missed.
I missed. So here we go. Where are you going to go? Sure. Where are you going to go if you're looking for a murder mystery and general unpleasantness with nary a smile to be found in the cold, wintry hills of Wyoming? Well, my friend, get your GPS out and your mucklucks and or snowshoes, for this is Wind River.
4, 3, 2, 1, showtime!
What a lovely way to start the new digs and everything like that.
So I'm a fan of immersive film cinematic experiences, and so as this is still technically summertime, theaters still have their air conditioning on. So I would advise going to see this film in shorts and a t-shirt if there's
You'll
good
really get the
AC,
sense of it.
because it feels like you're there. This whole film takes place in the wintertime
Right.
in Wyoming, where there's like blizzard conditions and it's just cold, 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 and that plays into the mystery and the story and the payoff at the end of the film. So I usually bring a sweatshirt in with me in case I get chilly.
I do too.
And this time I left it off because I'm like, I want to kind of feel like I'm there with these people. From the from the writer of Sicario and Hell or High Water, two very good films of recent memory. Similar vibe to that.
Yeah.
Similar vibe cinematically to a degree. One of the things I liked about Hell or High Water was the sweeping vistas and the sense of the land and being there, and this really gives you that. This desolate Indian reservation in I want to say it was Wyoming. I'm pretty sure it was. So you have Jeremy Renner as a Forestry Service tracker. He's the guy they call in when mountain lions are killing cattle and things like that.
Right.
And you have Elizabeth Olsen as an FBI agent who is the closest FBI agent to the incident, and they're investigating the murder of a young woman who's just found in the middle of nowhere in the snow, and who did it and why. And there's some history with Renner. His daughter disappeared and may have died in a similar way. And you see this really downtrodden, depressed community on this Indian reservation and how they all react to the news. And it's not a smiling film.
No, it certainly isn't.
I'm not sure there's a smile to be had in this film, but it's really well done. And the mystery is a head scratcher until it is revealed as to what happened. And when it does, it's just this horrific sense of dread and maybe queasy, because you see where this is going to go.
Right.
And when you see it all play out, it's really horrible. And then it's, not a movie for kids. But I thought this was really good. It reminded me of a film called The Sweet Hereafter from the late 90s, an Adam McGowan film. That was about a busload of school children goes into a ditch or fall. I don't remember what happens, but a lot of kids die, and it's how it affects this community, this sort of Native American or Native Canadian community. This had a similar vibe. I thought it was quite good, and I would recommend it, but I would not recommend it if you're looking to smile. I would recommend a comedy right after watching this.
It's another one we seem to have every week lately. One of those films that I think you and I both seem to respect a lot, the filmmaking and the artistic integrity is at its peak, but how do you recommend, hey, go see Wind River, because it is so grim and it is so gruesome. If I'm going to have any complaints, first of all, I thought performances throughout were just spectacular. It constantly kept me on the edge, wondering, you kind of knew ultimately where it was going to resolve, and this isn't a giveaway or anything, but so that I was pleasantly surprised at these moments. You get to a place where the FBI agent and Renner, who is helping her, they come across, and this is about 2/3 of the way through, and they're starting to really piece some things together. And they get together with a group of these guys who had some relationship with the actually 2 people who have disappeared. And there were moments there that it was
Incredible tension.
Really, really nerve-wracking. And I have to wonder, you can probably tell that there are gunshots that go off. I don't think that's giving anything away. But the distance that some of these people are propelled backwards when they get shot, I don't know if that's realistic. Movies at CheshireTV.org, if anybody knows that, if anybody can verify, if you're shot by a high-powered shotgun, at point-blank range or something like that, do you go flying back 10 feet?
Do you somersault in the air?
I have no idea. But it's really dramatic and impressive looking. Ultimately, my only complaint is you made reference to, clearly Jeremy Renner and his wife have issues. They're either divorced or separated or something like that. And as you said, a very similar incident. His daughter was obviously killed, and similar, but it didn't tie together completely enough for me. I expected to find out the real ins and outs of what happened to his daughter. So maybe that's an intelligent film saying you don't really need to know that. But they brought it up enough that that was about the only thing that I felt I was a little cheated on. Otherwise, I thought cinematographically it was wonderful looking. They did some real interesting things with sound design. As you say, beautiful vistas, and performances were terrific. I really, how do you say you enjoy this? But I really thought Wind River was real strong, real solid.
So you're saying people should jump right out?
Right off of it. And if, as a matter of fact, if you happen to be not necessarily in Wyoming, which we both think it could possibly be Wyoming, but perhaps you're in Gay Paris, or you would like to go there, be that as it may.
Sure.
If you're a young waif from a neighboring village and you want to really learn the ins and outs of how to dance, how to be a ballerina, you don't want to walk, you don't want to necessarily run to learn how to be a really high-powered ballerina. Head over to Paris and take the leap. So, public service announcement, I suppose. I did not see this.
I hadn't heard of it until just now.
But, well, so now you've heard of it, and so you have the opportunity to go see it. It was on in Theater 1, I believe, at our friends and sponsors, the Latches Theater.
Okay.
So planning on actually probably heading to see that tonight. But it was busy watching all the other things that we had. So Leap was one that kind of went by the wayside for me, but I do plan to see it. Animation looks really strong. When I was doing research for this to try to find trailers, several of the trailers I found were in French. So I'm wondering either if this was just revoiced, and as you mentioned when we were talking off air, hard to make the lips really match with that, so I kind of doubt that. I think it was just taken from a French film. But looks, and again, not to be sexist, this is is this reverse sexism? I don't know. But not a lot out there for the young women, for girls to really be looking up to. Thank goodness Wonder Woman came out. Again, I told you I idolized Wonder Woman. I thought it was just, I really
watched the Justice League trailer again in the theater the other day, and I'm like, I don't care about any of these other guys.
I just want to see Wonder Woman, yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah. So I think clear, not to stay on Wonder Woman too long, but love to see a sequel. But yeah, so something good to, for the girls. And again, not to be sexist, but we're starting to get into a little bit of the doldrums before you get to the holiday
The late
rush.
summer clearinghouse releases?
Right, exactly. So I think Leap looks pretty interesting.
Speaking of something for the ladies.
Yes, right.
Ladies. Ryan Reynolds is back on the big screen with Sam Jackson as a man, this is Ryan Reynolds I'm talking about now, as a man who is a was AAA rated personal bodyguard who is given the thankless task of protecting a man wanted by many people, wanted as in wanted dead by many people, has to get him from point A to point B with a ticking clock, screenwriting 101, and it is entitled The Hitman's Bodyguard.
Snack bar, where we offer a wide variety of good things to eat and drink to top off your evening.
You can just cut right after Bodyguard there, right into this.
Yeah, they're never going to know.
Not that you know what we're talking about.
You will never know all the amount of editing that I personally did so that you did not hear us swear in the trailer you just saw.
And the amazing things that you can get on YouTube these days.
Anyway, yeah.
Clearly a buddy picture.
Yes.
I'm going to start because I think I like this a little bit more than you did, and then you can tear my my analysis apart. Buddy picture, I thought they were okay. I'm not going to try to think of who would have been better to pair with either Sam or Ryan Reynolds.
I think if you had Charles Grodin and Robert De Niro, it would have worked great.
You think that would work pretty well? Well, we'll be talking about Robert De Niro in the near future in any event, in a film comparable to this. But I like Reynolds. They play off his little repartee. Clearly, he's got what's the character? What's the superhero character? I forget. Deadpool. Yeah, I didn't like Deadpool, so I like Reynolds enough that I try to forgive him for Deadpool, but we're going to see him again soon in that. So a lot of that, unbelievably potty mouth. If you don't like the F word or any other kinds of words that might be somewhat questionable, definitely rated R for that. Definitely rated R for extreme violence. I don't recall any nudity. So I don't think that
would be untoward.
Yeah, that would be.
That would be in poor taste.
But I thought this was too long. You see all of the chases and the gunfire and all of the gunplay and everything like that. Salma Hayek is in there as the most potty mouthed woman. She's incarcerated for something that she didn't do, but she's married to Sam Jackson. So they're using her as a wedge to try to get to Sam Jackson, who, by the way, if we want to tell what the movie is really all about, Sam Jackson is going to be the one witness who will survive to get to The Hague to testify against Gary Oldman, who is this despot dictator. Strangely enough, everybody else seems to die. So it's Ryan Reynolds' job to protect Sam Jackson to get him there. And obviously, as we heard earlier on, Jackson has tried to kill Reynolds a zillion times. So it's two fish out of water trying to have the buddy together. I enjoyed it enough. I liked the two of them, so I'm probably giving this more credit than it deserves. Not a terribly clever script, and I get the sense that a lot of the stuff may have been just extemporaneous. Put the two of these guys together, they're both funny, smart guys. They'll play off of each other. I just thought it went on quite a bit too long. I liked it, but the chase scenes went on too long. I think you could have cut. Not that I didn't like Salma Hayek, I thought she was very funny, but I think you could have cut that entire subplot out and brought this in 20 minutes earlier. In the long run, I think I'll bet Hitman's Bodyguard I'm going to like a lot more on video. As you know, a little bit more demanding when we go to the theater. And so ultimately I'll give this a 7. But I did think it was just kind of overt in its language and lengths of all of the chases and stuff like that nothing terribly new.
I'm no prude, as you may know. If you knew how I spent my weekend, you'd certainly know that. But swearing for swearing's sake just gets tiring after a while.
Yeah.
And I felt like this movie thought just the fact that people were swearing was funny, and it wasn't. And Salma Hayek, it was really forced with how profane her dialogue was, and it was just like, yeah, I get it. And then Sam Jackson, I mean, that's sort of what people hire him for. But even he seemed like it seemed unnatural how much they were swearing back and forth. Yeah. I thought the action was sloppy and not good. So in an action comedy, okay, well then how's the comedy? Well, I didn't think it was funny. So I didn't like it at all. It's this month's version of Midnight Run. If you don't like this one, just wait 3-4 weeks. There'll be another variation on two people thrown together who don't like each other, who have to get from point A to point B in 20-something hours. I was surprised to see Gary Oldman in it. He was fine for what he was. The best thing I can say about it is that it has a scene toward the end with a guy on fire. And you just don't get guys on fire like you used to anymore. Back in my day.
There was some subtle depth of field play. Stuff going on in the foreground. Yeah. And if you happen to look into the background, there's something going on. So I thought it was a little bit more intelligent than the average Midnight Run ripoff.
And it was very... I don't know if nihilistic is the right word, but it was very like nasty. It reminded me, and I know it's a movie you liked a lot, but it reminded me of Shoot 'Em Up in that way, where it's a lot of like violence and cruelty and people getting killed. And again, I sound like such a milquetoast. It's not the case. I just didn't like the tone of this thing overall, where it's just everybody's. There's like I didn't like anybody in this movie.
It was all about love.
I guess in the end.
Sam's love for Selma.
And in the end, I don't give it away. There's a happy ending in the end. And the one time I smiled during the whole movie, guy on fire. Full
Guy
body,
on fire.
full body burn.
Doesn't it always make you happy when you see a guy on fire?
This is in slow motion. Guy
Right.
on fire.
Some guys need to be on fire, or you might lose a job if you get on fire. Forget the segue. Couple of guys down south running some bad luck. They're looking for work, can't quite find it. One of them even gets laid off. It's bad news. So they're going to hire a convict who's actually incarcerated at the time to help them rob a very wealthy place where they're driving some really fast cars. It's a family that's hasn't been doing terribly well, but this time the family is going to be Logan Lucky.
No Showtime treat to equal the crisp, delicious flavor of hot popcorn that's bathed in real melted butter.
So I think the big push, as obviously the trailer makes it look like, is Daniel Craig is this really bizarre Southern hick guy who's got this weird, the way they talk.
Nasally twang.
Yeah, nasally twang and everything like that. I didn't think he was nearly as funny as Channing Tatum and Adam Driver. Adam Driver, who we'll all remember, sorry to say it, you're doomed forever to be Kylo Ren from Star Wars. When I realized it was him, I was like taken aback. I thought he was, they're all making fun of this, the Southern way of talking and the lifestyle down there, which might be an easy joke at it, but for the first 45 minutes of this, I was eventually getting into the scripting and what I ended up finding to be pretty cleverly written dialogue, so much so that I was thinking, boy, did the Coen brothers write this and somebody else directed it? I didn't know until the very end that Steven Soderbergh was responsible for it, so that made a lot of sense. It's a heist movie, ultimately, and it's unfortunate because this is so clearly a comedy, but about halfway through it, I thought it was like they turned off the cleverness of the script. All the clever little innuendos and double entendres and just the kind of Southern jokes that they had in there. And it turned into a regular heist movie. And I'll let you explain one part of your thing, but I found myself questioning, and is this fair from a comedy? But questioning, oh, wait a minute. Who had to be involved with that for that to happen? How did they arrange that? That doesn't make a lot of sense. So unfortunately, and I keep thinking about like Escape from Alcatraz,
right.
And they bring up Ocean's 11, which is a brilliant film. Obviously based on the original Ocean's 11. But this one I really enjoyed the first half, and I thought it fell apart a little bit the second half. I'm wondering, we get about 2/3 of the way through it, and I'm like, it seems like it's wrapping up, and I'm going, wait a minute,
right.
How did all of this happen? And then they explain it, so it's like flashback, the F word explaining it, sorry about that. So I thought this was kind of the first half. I was really thinking it was going to be great, and it fell apart a little bit for me for the second half.
I didn't like it. It's not as zippy, fast, poppy as the trailer makes it look.
Right.
It does feel Coen-esque a lot. It felt like it was just making fun of Southern people as being dumb. I mean, I know it was just making fun of those characters, but that was a little annoying. I didn't find it funny. The heist thing, I love heist movies, so that's what I was
Right.
looking into this for. I realized partway through it didn't work for me, partially because generally in a heist movie, you see all the planning and you hear the plan and you see them rehearse it and know everything that has to happen for this to be pulled off, so that when things go right, you're rooting for them and going, yeah, that really happened. Or if things go wrong, you're tense and like, oh no, it's all going to fall apart. In this movie, you never saw any of that. You just see them doing their thing. So
Right.
they're just doing this and they're doing that, and you have no idea. It just seems to be all effortless and flawless. Now, as you said, there is a flashback at the end that shows you how they did some other things, but it didn't really work as a heist movie or a comedy for me. It was too long. It was not as funny as it's made to look. It was a bit more of drama interwoven through the whole thing. And Soderbergh is weird. He can make super commercial movies, and he can make the kind of movies he feels like making. And I think this is being sold as a commercial film, but it's more the kind of movie he feels like making.
Really? Okay.
I personally would rather rewatch Ocean's 11 myself.
I'll watch
Either
that anytime.
the original or the remake.
Yes.
So that was all we have to talk about that was in theaters, that we saw in theaters, including one we didn't. We thank our friends at the Latches in Brattleboro who are offering to you, the public, the film we didn't go see. Up now, that which is available to you on home video on the device, platform, format, or media of your choice. First of which being a film, I don't know if you've heard of this one. It involves a bunch of people in outer space, and there's bad guys and there's good guys, and there's a raccoon that shoots in motes and a tree that kind of talks, but in a very limited vocabulary. It's something called Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Mom.
Yes, love?
What was that like?
I'll bet that made 20 or 30 bucks.
Yeah,
at the box office,
or some multiple thereof.
Right, yeah.
So I loved the first Guardians.
Yeah, it was
so much
just
fun.
wonderful.
Such a breath of fresh air.
It was exactly.
The second one is still fun. It separates the cast somewhat in this film from what I recall. I haven't seen it since I saw it in the theater. Certainly visually amazing. You get Kurt Russell as an interesting character, and when his character's full reality is revealed, I thought that was kind of a nice touch when and how they do that. Great music once again, really funny. Some moment of pretty potent drama at one point in the film that surprised me. Some interesting peripheral cast members who are sprinkled in there that I believe are going to play a bigger role in the next film.
Okay.
But I would say now, if you liked the first one, you should like the second one. If you haven't seen the first one, I'm not sure the second one is the one to start with. I do know people who loved the first and didn't like the second as much, but overall, I thought it was fun.
I would be one of those who absolutely loved the first. No, I didn't. I'm a big comic book fan. I didn't read any of the comic books, so I went into the first one absolutely fresh, and it just knocked my socks off. I just truly loved it. Thought it was wonderful. This one has, I think if you're not super critical, you're going to enjoy this one. It did feel more compartmentalized for me. Here's this story about this guy. Here's this story about this woman. Blah, blah, blah. So it felt a little bit broken up. I got tired of the, oh, poor daddy, who's my daddy, who's your daddy bit. And that's really what drives this. Is Kurt Russell Star-Lord's dad or not? I didn't feel that was clever enough to merit a whole storyline. So ultimately, I was disappointed in it. I thought the effects were terrific. There are a lot of little subplots. We meet this race, and we spend a lot of time with this race of women and some other race of gold people. And it just felt for me like this tried too hard. Like they knew they had a huge bar that they had to try to surpass. And so they just tried a little bit too hard for me. I didn't think that the music in any way, shape, or form stood up to the original. I know I'm sounding super, super critical of it. I didn't hate it. I just sure didn't like Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Looking forward to the third one. Maybe they'll get all of this. Boy, we have to one-up ourselves out of their system and just go back to having fun on the next one.
Perhaps when they're writing the next film, they'll have some sort of a device that if they're going too far in the wrong direction, they can just hit it, and that will shut things
work.
down.
That might work out. Or if you happen to be a theoretical physicist who's trying to solve, that was easy for me to say, theoretical physicist, I'll say it 3 times fast. You're trying to solve the world's problems. Don't you want to do that? You want to help out humanity? Trouble is, if the process that you're trying to create all of this abundant power goes a little bit wild, you do need to find some way that you can shut it all off and hit that old kill switch.
Men are converting basic data from the University of Chicago into the atomic power plant.
So this one came out of nowhere. I rented it on Amazon. I don't think it's got any theatrical release. Mostly shot on video. It's a weird setup. This is like the Terminator meets Hardcore Henry. You remember Hardcore Henry, the POV?
I walked out of that, yeah.
I really ended up enjoying Hardcore Henry and thought they had a lot of fun with this. This tries that very same thing, and it doesn't really quite work. It's an interesting enough concept. What happens is this scientist creates a big, like, laser beam that goes into the sky, and what it's done, minor spoiler alert, I'll call you back if you want to come back. What it's done is created an alternate universe, and it's taking power. It's destroying all the matter from that universe and turning it into energy. Okay, you can come back if you want. So in doing that, he's found out that both areas are in trouble, and he's got to pick one or the other. And so that's what the kill switch is all about, being able to turn it. Trouble is, so he's sent over to this alternate universe, and they're having all sorts of trouble. It was a clever enough concept. Performances were pretty good, but it's nothing new that we've ever seen. Mostly shot on video is very clearly that. So it was, for want of a better term, low budget, but they do about the best that they can with what they've got. So if you're a sci-fi fan, I think Kill Switch is worth a watch.
Speaking of Ridley Scott.
Yes, weren't we?
Why not? Weren't you? Ridley Scott returns to the film franchise that made him internationally famous with yet another tale in the world of beings from outer space that want to get inside you. Ooh, that sounds nasty. Get inside you and lay an egg, and this isn't getting any better. This film is the sequel to the prequel entitled Prometheus. You do the math on that one. This is Alien Covenant.
Get away from her, you. This thing just won't leave.
Violence, violence, violence.
Violencia interplanetary.
Did we need these?
No.
I have a lot more respect for the very first Alien movie. When I first saw it, I respected it, but I always thought it was very slow. And it really kind of is. So the more I see it, the more respect I have for it. I loved Aliens. I mean, that's basically an action flick.
That's the movie that started the sequels.
Right, absolutely. And so then we follow all the rest of them. I forget all the other ones. But then we hit Prometheus. And it's the flashback to really how it started. And for me, Prometheus was just Alien all over. And this is just Alien all over. Fassbender is very interesting in this. I think he's a wonderful actor. And I find him fascinating in whatever role he takes. But you know, he's just this kind of, we've seen the character before, so I didn't think Alien Covenant was anything new.
I think that's probably the consensus on this. I liked Prometheus just because I liked how it looked and felt. It had a really good vibe and music and a look to it. But I mean, I think all prequels are unnecessary, and it's just, you're just making stuff up to try to wedge in, and ultimately usually cheapen and alter how you think about the original film when all is said and done. I thought this movie was fine. Covenant as a movie, as an alien. As I said to people after I saw it, for a movie that didn't need to exist, this was a fun alien.
If you're an
knockoff.
Alien fan, absolutely.
And it's an alien. It gives you all the beats that an alien movie gives you. If you're into this prequel mythology stuff, it furthers that story a little bit. And there's still space to do more. The Final Frontier. There's more room to do more of these if they want to continue this to lead up to Alien ultimately. This film is interesting in that they had a couple of scenes that I guess were not included in the theatrical cut that you could watch online. I'm sure these are on the video release, but I haven't seen the video release. That actually did help explain some things. Okay. That would have made the movie would have made a little bit more sense if you knew this stuff going in.
I think I saw those, yeah.
It would have given you more than 30 seconds with James Franco, which frankly was okay with me.
I thought
his
that was
fate in this film made me laugh because I'm like, if he could be in every movie this long and end that way, that would be fantastic. But yeah, Alien Covenant. Out now. No
great snake shakes or anything like that. If you like blood and guts and gore, you can watch Alien Covenant, or you could check out. Is it realistic? We really don't quite know. When a film crew is shooting a film, and they're starting to suspect that maybe all of the blood and guts and gore for the horrible things that are happening to the cast might not be so fake. Maybe something real is going on. They really might not be quite so special effects.
The classics are covered from Alien to Wizard of Oz.
So this was just released by AGFA, the American Genre Film Archive, on Blu-ray, DVD, and it's one that I'd not been familiar with until recently.
I don't recall. Well, I'd never seen it before.
It's been advertised as being made by friends of George Romero, and it is. It's friends and associates of him.
Right. Well, Savini, probably the biggest name.
Savini and Joe Pilato, who people would know as the crazy military guy in Day of the Dead, giving I think a much better performance here than in Day of the Dead.
Okay.
It's interesting. There was some critical pull quote about this saying that it was like a horror version of Day for Night, which I agree with.
Yeah.
So it's a group of people who are in this remote house somewhere, probably in Pennsylvania, shooting a horror movie, but everybody who's in the cast and crew are also the people who are in the movie, obviously the cast, but some of the crew members are in the movie. So you'll see a scene playing out and then something horrifying happens and you don't know for a while, is this reality or is this the movie they're making? And then in the background there's this undercurrent of maybe these people also make snuff movies and there are hidden cameras filming things, and what exactly is going on here? It had a really, really good sense of like dread and mystery the whole time. Like something bad is going to happen, and I don't know who it's going to happen to. I kind of know the guy it's not going to happen to, but everybody else it's up for grabs, and you don't really know what reality is the whole time. Not in a confusing way, but in like a mysterious kind of interesting way.
Right.
It's very low key. It feels a lot like a Romero film from around the Martin period, I thought. So the acting isn't top notch. Feels kind of improvised. A lot of I don't want to say mumbly dialogue, but very low key. But if you can roll with that, I think this is really interesting.
That worked for me because of the film that they were making in the film. So I thought that was real effective. Again, not knowing most of the actors, I thought made it a little bit more believable and realistic for me. My only what I found to be really the only drawback for me in watching this was this one felt dated. It looked dated based on the film stock that they were using and to make the actual film effects. And so that took me out of it a little bit. But once I kind of got used to that, I thought it was pretty enjoyable. I think people who are in the film industry or who have made films, there's enough little inside jokes and kind of fun moments that I thought I was surprised. Not surprised, but I really did kind of enjoy it. I thought, if you can say that about, for want of a better term, a murder film.
I enjoyed seeing all those people get killed.
Right.
And really, right up until almost the very end, you're not quite sure.
Yeah.
Not that it's confusing. You're just like, you're not quite sure who's going to live, who's going to die. And
I keep waiting for these to be, I think, in the hands of less, for want of a better term, less creative filmmakers. You'll get the tomato surprise. Oh, haha, I get it at the end. And then in thinking back on it, it just feels like a ripoff. I didn't think this had that feel.
Not at all. Speaking of Noomi Rapace. Now, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, and I think she's really great, so I actually did mean to look up a phonetic pronunciation of that. If you like the star of the original Dragon Tattoo, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and those films, you get plenty of her in multiple senses of the word in this film. This is a straight to Netflix. This is available on Netflix right now. It is entitled What Happened to Monday?
Nobody cares. You should care. Care. Monday's your weapon.
I did my darndest to see this and tried 5 different methods, and it didn't quite work out because not only did you give pretty reputable praise for it, but it looks really good.
I thought this was really good. Now, the reason you couldn't see it was because we were given an advanced screener link, and I didn't realize until just now.
My smart TV wouldn't play it, and my smart Blu-ray player wouldn't play it. And
we got that link before this came out, so we could watch it before the public could see it.
Right.
It's actually been out for a week, so you could have just watched it on Netflix.
I'll watch it tonight.
I really like this a lot. This is one of those movies that you watch and you're like, why did this not get put in theaters? This is as good as, and actually this is better than a lot of what I've seen in the theater lately. The problem is I think for an American studio, maybe for American audiences, sadly, there's no actor in this movie that has...
Defoe's bankable enough, probably not.
Nobody who could really sell this movie based around, although Rapace, I think, is great.
Yeah.
She plays 7 distinct roles in this film, 7 characters that are all their own person, and you can kind of tell apart. Basically, the premise of the movie, if you weren't paying attention to the trailer, it is a future dystopian world where overpopulation is such a serious problem that the government says, okay, you can only have 1 kid. And if you wind up having more than 1 child, any child over the number of 1 in your household gets cryogenically frozen and sort of stored away until we can fix this overpopulation problem. So basically the deal is Willem Dafoe's, I don't recall if it's his daughter or wife, has 7 babies. And he keeps it a secret, and he raises them all in secret. They're identical twins times 7. He raises them in secret, and he names each of them after the day of the week, and he has them all assume a single identity, and they each go out into the world 1 day a week where they can be this person. So they have to look the same, and as he says, if anything happens to you, it happens to all of you. So if you get a scar, you all need to have a scar. So it's that premise alone is really interesting, and that's all I thought this was going to be, but it goes like several steps beyond that and becomes like this conspiracy thriller, at times action movie that's incredibly well done. It had me like, I did not see a lot of what was going to happen in this movie. One thing I did, and I was glad it went the way I thought it was going to go, but you have great performances. You've got Willem Dafoe, you've got Glenn Close. Those are, I think, all the names you'd really recognize. Directed by Tommy Wirkola, who made the Dead Snow movies, which I thought were immature garbage, and Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, which I thought was immature, but I loved.
Yeah, that was fun.
This is very mature. This is like, I had to look twice to make sure that it was the same guy who made those movies, because this is like really good. So I think if you like sci-fi movies like Children of Men or a lot of other intelligent sci-fi, if you like Rapace, certainly, this is certainly one to check out. It's on Netflix now, so what are you waiting for?
Yeah.
Wait till the end of this
Why are you watching us? Wait a minute.
So, shall I do the next
yours.
one in our limited amount of time? This is, excuse me, thank you. This is the Arrow Video Corner, and John Travolta just took it in the elbow. We have a film, early 80s slasher film. A woman has visions when she sleeps. Are these simply nightmares, or is her unreality becoming a reality for those around her when a person comes to town who's not very nice, known as the Slayer?
Will Buffy be next?
You know you want it.
Oh, you're jealous. He can be a naughty sucker.
The Slayer.
For the whole family.
Yes.
This is a film I had never heard of until I was given this disc. This is an early 80s shot in, I believe, I want to say North Carolina, slasher film. One of the things I'm liking is the Arrow release, as I said. One of the things I'm loving about what Arrow is doing now is they're digging up like 80s slasher films I've never seen. Like, some are better than others. They're not, I mean, generally, if a film is not a classic in its time, there's probably a reason why. Right. This is no classic, but it was a heck of a lot of fun. And it's one of those things where, like, if you're a fan of this era and genre of film, to suddenly get a new one, it's like I'm a huge Three Stooges fan, and when I got the box set of all the shorts, I know I had seen them all. There were a couple I think I hadn't seen before, and it's like, ooh, that's like a little gift. So the gift Arrow presents to you horror fans is this movie, The Slayer, from the early 80s, where this woman has these visions or nightmares, and they seem to come true, and what's reality and what isn't, similar to what we were talking about with effects earlier. The kills are very gruesome and very effectively done and shocking. This woman has a great bug-eyed scream face that is really kind of creepy and exciting. It's Arrow, so this movie looks good and sounds great. The extras are voluminous. I only was able to dip into them fairly briefly, but there's a sequence in the film that is shot in what at the time was a decrepit, half-torn-apart small movie theater in a small town. That has since been refurbished and turned into a local theater again, and apparently they re-premiered this movie there like last year. So you can watch the entire film as though you're in that theater, watching it with the ad audience. So you get the original intro to the film that's shot on stage at this theater, and then you watch the movie as it is on the disc, but the audio track is the audience reaction mixed in from that theater.
Oh, that's fun.
So you can hear people cheering local landmarks and screaming and having all that kind of fun. And then there's a Q&A with I think the director and maybe a cast member afterwards. Tons of making of stuff. At least one audio commentary. This thing is loaded. For a movie, like, again, movie I've never heard of, now you can find out all about it, and where it's been all these years. So I've had a good time with The Slayer, being a fan of this sort of thing, and I would certainly recommend it to anybody who's an 80s horror fan, because I'm going to guess you probably haven't seen this one. Right. Being that it's Arrow, of course, it is an outstanding presentation of a film that may or may not deserve it, depending on your opinion. There are other films to discuss, but I feel that in the
We've been talking way too much. So we'll pick up on them next week.
We'll pick on them next week. They're on video. They're not going anywhere. It's not like they're in the theater and they'll be gone by the time you want to watch it again. So we will be back next week.
I will be.
I will be too, in this new spacious, and it actually is spacious. I wish I had like a tennis ball I could throw, and here how long it is before you hit the back wall. Sorry, it's been a long weekend. I'm Mark.
I'm Tom.
We are
the Cinemaniacs.